All right, so it's been like 4.5 months since I got these studio display monitors, so I think it's about time for a quick update video. What's up, my name is Mike Falabi. I'm a freelance creative director giving people tools to better tell their stories. And like I said before, I've had these studio display monitors for like 4.5 months. When I got them, they were very controversial and people had a lot of different opinions on them. So I just wanted to do an update video on how they've been, how they've performed, and kind of the pros and cons of them so far. Just a quick summary of these monitors. They're 27-inch 5K monitors. They have 3 USB-C ports and 1 Thunderbolt 3 port. I'm gonna break this down into 3 different sections: the pros, the cons, and then the takeaways. The first pro is how seamlessly it integrated with my workflow. I paired these monitors with my M1 Max MacBook Pro. I have the 16-inch, so it's like a big enough screen that when I'm traveling, it's enough to like see everything that I'm working on. But when I come here, I really get this desktop feel that like I just plug in the USB-Cs and I'm ready to go. It's like a full desktop setup. The cool thing now with these M1 Max and now M2 chips is that they're getting so fast that they rival desktop performance. I remember back in the day, it's like you're either sacrificing on performance or on like flexibility, transportability. As far as brightness, that was one thing that I was kind of concerned about. Since my M1 Max has theoretically up to 1500 nits, that's only like if you're viewing HDR content, which we often aren't, so you don't really get all the way up to that. But I was worried that I would be used to a certain level of brightness and then this wouldn't be bright enough, especially since I have like studio lights and all that stuff in my office. But after using these like daily for the past 4 months, I haven't had to like have the brightness all the way up to 100% once. Even with these huge windows off to the side, it's still plenty bright. I was worried about not getting the nano textured coating, but I'll get to that later. It actually got to the point sometimes where if I was working like later into the afternoon and evening and it wasn't as bright in the office, that I was like turning down the brightness because it was too bright. So I'm never worried about it not being bright enough, which is dope. Another pro is that it's not an HDR monitor, and it's not OLED, which is a pro for me at least. In comparing it to the XDR or even comparing it to my MacBook Pro, when I'm trying to edit for color and for color accuracy, obviously the M1 Max is an OLED monitor, so it's gonna be more color accurate, but it's not what everybody is viewing. Everybody doesn't have an M1 Max OLED monitor, so when I'm editing color for that, and then I see it on a non-OLED screen, I'm realizing that I should have taken the blacks a little bit darker. It's this weird, like you wanna edit for your user, not just for yourself. I have a few friends in the music industry that are audio engineers, so when they're mixing and mastering their music, they don't just listen to it on their $40,000, $50,000 studio speakers. They listen to it in the car, they listen to it in headphones, from $1,000 headphones to cheap AirPods or whatever that you're listening to, because they want the experience for the user to be as close to the experience that it was intended to have. So that's something that I'm grateful for these monitors. They kind of are better than the average monitor, but they resemble them so that when I'm editing on here, I know that it'll look very similar on most monitors out there. So that's one thing that I wasn't expecting to be grateful for, but I'm glad that I didn't get the XDRs and think that it looks incredible and then go watch it on a TV that's not XDR, not OLED, and it not look as good. Another pro, kind of in the same vein, is that I just like the colors of this monitor. I came from an LG monitor and I had a Samsung monitor, and they all have that like matte finish, which is great for like glares and reflections, but it makes your footage look like ashy, for lack of a better word. It just doesn't look as vibrant, and having these monitors with like the glass finish, the glossy finish, though it attracts fingerprints, which are fairly easy to clean, it just looks better. Everything just looks better on this monitor. Speaking of matte finishes on monitors, if you're in the market for getting one of these studio displays, do not get the nano texture option, please. I have a bunch of friends that got it and they've had a bunch of problems with it. It's the same technology on the XDR, if I'm not mistaken, and a lot of people have been complaining in forums saying that like if you get like a drop of spit or like any random little thing on the monitor, it's impossible to clean. That it's rated for like dirt. You can obviously like wipe dirt off with a microfiber, but they're like scratches really easily. Sometimes it like peels. Basically everybody that I know that uses it or has used one says don't get it. Don't waste your money. Like I said before, it's plenty bright, so you don't have to worry. There's literally lights shining directly on it right now, not to mention the window lighting. So yeah, I love it. don't get the nano texture option, please. Another pro that I wasn't really expecting, and I'm kind of noticing that that's a theme here, is that the speakers and the microphones are way better than they need to be. I have these Yamaha HS5s and I don't really use the microphone all that much. If I'm on a Zoom call, I have this like overly engineered setup that I'll use. But if I'm ever in a pinch and I want to use the mics and the speakers, they are great. Like, they sound fantastic. Apple always does a great job calling everything studio, the studio quality microphones and all of that stuff. But they're actually really good. This is an audio test. Check 1, 2. These mics sound pretty good. This camera is trash, but we'll talk about that later. These are monitors meant to just show you an image, but the speakers on them are fantastic. In the last video, I talked about how I got the tilt-only options for these monitors as opposed to the height adjustable or the VESA mount, however you say it. And that hasn't been a problem. I haven't noticed that like I needed it to be height adjusted. Eventually, I want to get a standing desk, and that can do that. Rule of thumb, they say that your eyes should be close to, if not at the top of the monitor. So this chair adjusts perfectly fine to the point where I'm able to sit comfortably. I don't feel like I'm straining or like that my neck hurts after viewing. So yeah, that's one thing, at least for me. Oh yeah, I have these risers, this riser here, that definitely helped. Getting it a little bit higher and closer to eye level. But I believe the height adjustable version is like $300 or $400 more expensive. Just get something like this. You get more storage under there, and it was like $30 on Amazon. Another pro is the design. They're made so well, not just visually, but like the materials that they use, it's almost all metal and glass, as opposed to a lot of these like plastic models out there. Models, not like models, like computer monitor. Anyways, I hate when monitors have that little like shake or that wobble anytime you like type, but these have literally never done that once, and I love that. The biggest pro and kind of the most obvious one is being able to have this much screen real estate. I'll put like my sequence and my timeline on one 27-inch screen, and that will take up the whole screen. And then on a completely other screen, I can have my clips, or I can have my effects, or any combination of that. And being able to see everything at once is really dope. Everything has its place. Like, nothing has to be hidden behind tabs or windows or different things like that. It gives me the ability to, if I want to just edit on one screen and have the other screen as like the editing notes, or have the other screen as like I'm looking up how to do a specific effect. So I have a YouTube video open on one side, and I'm able to do have the whole other screen to actively do it as I'm watching the video. It's like the possibilities are endless. And now to the cons. After having these monitors for 4.5 months and using them almost daily, there's a couple quirks that I thought I'd point out to anybody that's interested in getting these. The first con, and it's kind of just more annoying than anything to be honest, is that each monitor only has one Thunderbolt 3 port. There's 4 ports in total, 3 of them are USB-C, and 1 of them is Thunderbolt, which, to be honest, I didn't really know that there's a difference between the two. Basically, there's only 1 port that can receive image on each of these monitors, which means that I can't daisy chain them together, which means I have to plug 2 cables into my MacBook Pro each time I want to use them together, which isn't that big of a deal. I wish that I could daisy chain them and only have to plug in 1 cable to my MacBook. It would make it easier, a little bit quicker, but more than anything, it would free up another Thunderbolt 3 port on my laptop. Another con is, and before I even say it, I know how first world problem this is. If there's something bigger than first world problem, that this is what that is there's like too much screen sometimes. Like, I feel like I'm watching like a tennis match sometimes if I'm like editing something on here, and then I'm going back over here, and then I'm going back over here. And like, yeah, sometimes there's just too much screen where like you want to maximize your productivity, but if it means that you're like snapping your head back and forth a million times, that's not actually doing that. So that's probably more user error than anything, but something to keep in mind, that you might not need this much screen or ever utilize that much screen. So if it's something that you will never utilize, then I don't even think it's worth going for a dual monitor setup. The last con, and this is probably the biggest con for me, is that these cameras are useless. Checking the camera now. This is best case scenario. I have window lighting. I have a 150 watt light and a 300 over there to give as much light as possible. If I start turning these off, it's just gonna look worse and worse. So yeah, that looks terrible. When the speakers are so good and the mics are so good, it's like that close to being the perfect setup for like Zooms and all of that stuff, FaceTime calls or whatever the case is. It's the worst camera quality that I have in every camera that I own from like, hold on. From this, like I would rather use this than those monitors. Cameras are terrible. They said they did a software update for them. It's very difficult for a software update to change the image of something because that's normally hardware based. And yeah, the update too much. And now to the takeaways. My biggest takeaway is that not everybody values things the same. Not everybody values the ease of use as much as they do like the bleeding edge specs or whatever the case is. The person that uses an iPhone is not the same person that uses an ROG phone or a Samsung S22 Ultra or all these different phones that are a lot more customizable. You get what you get depending on what you value most. And these monitors are for people who value or are indoctrinated in the Apple ecosystem so heavily, or just appreciate the ease of use with other Apple products. This is a first-party peripheral meant for first-party computers. You can use them for Windows computers. They have the ability to be used like that, but they're meant to match and to mirror the user experience that you would get in a MacBook Pro. And that's one thing that I value. I have all of the Apple stuff. So when something speaks the language that I am already speaking, I don't have to then translate the Samsung to Apple. That's one of the reasons why it's taking me so long to make this Fuji X100V review. Let me go grab it. This guy here, because I'm still learning the camera. I'm indoctrinated in the Sony/Canon ecosystem and learning a new camera and the button layouts and how it works and the perks and benefits of it. It's taking me a little bit longer to get used to. And it's also kind of making me use it less, which is unfortunate because it's a great camera. I'm going to be making a review on it very soon. But yeah, that just lends itself to that point that they made a product that works for what I have already. Another takeaway is that Apple builds products of quality. Like there's no way around that. This is a very well built monitor. Some people would even say overly engineered or overly built. There's a phone chip inside of this. There's like, I think it's a Bionic something or another. I'll put it on here, whatever one it is. There's a phone processor inside of the monitor. So would I buy these monitors again? Yes, absolutely, yeah. I would buy these monitors again because they check all the boxes that I need them to check. They might not check the boxes you need to check, but they check the boxes that I do. I've had friends that are videographers or photographers or graphic designers or whatever have you, and they've asked me like, oh, do you think that I should buy this monitor? Some of them I've said yes to, and some of them I've said no to, depending on what their needs are. So yeah, I'd buy these monitors again. They're great. I have very little negative to say about them. Obviously now being further away from the initial pain of paying that much for monitors, it's easier for me now to have a better appreciation for them. But yeah, I love these monitors. They do exactly what I need them to do. And 4.5 months in, I have little to nothing negative to say about them. So yeah, if this is something that you're into, go ahead and grab these monitors. 1, 2, 4, 8, however many monitors you want to get, go for it. But at the end of the day, get the gear that works for you, not just the gear that gets advertised to you on social media and on YouTube. Think about what you need. Think about where it works best for you. Get it or don't. It's not my business. That's it for this video. I'm Mike Falabi. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.